الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Tonight inshallah we continue with our series of Ulu al-Himmah and building determinations for those who are interested in reaching the highest levels and for those who are striving to get closer to their Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala and for those whose goal is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For other than that, this is the wrong place. And last time we spoke about some of the himam and we gave some of the examples as al-Qa'qa' radiyallahu anhu. And tonight, one of the issues that we need to discuss is it okay to describe the kafir with ulu al-himmah? Is it okay to describe the kafir by having very high determination? And this is a fault, or this is a problem that a lot of Muslims fall into. And that is when they want to talk about building determinations and talking about energy and talking about bringing a lot of energy into the table, they bring the examples of the kuffar. So if he wants to talk about very high determination, he might talk about Bill Gates. Or if he wants to talk about a lot of achievements, he might bring Isaac Newton, or people like that, or names of presidents, or even societies and nationalities. So if he wants to talk about a country or a population or a group of people who are so determined and so hard workers, he might talk about the Japanese, or he might talk about the Germans, or he might talk about the Americans, or whatever the scenario is. And this is a problem that a lot of Muslims fall into. And we have already established that when we talk about building determination, and when we talk about striving for the best, we already agreed and we already understood that the best is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we already agreed and established the fact that the perfection of the determination and the perfection of al-himmah is based on what is the goal, or based on what the goal is. So if your goal is of worthless and of this dunya, then you have no right to deserve, or you do not deserve that description of having very high determination. Because we already established, and we've been talking about this for weeks already, that the goal that we are striving for is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The goal that we are seeking is al-firdaus al-a'la. The place that we want to be, or the company we want to be with, is the company of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So if this is what we are agreeing on, and if this is the goal of building determinations and striving for the best, then a kafir goal and the kafir's determination are of no worth. Because very much, doesn't matter how hard he works, how much he is determined, always for the dunya. Always for the dunya. And we already established the dunya is worth nothing. We already established that fact. So how can you describe someone or describe a group of people whose main concern is the dunya? If he works for the dunya. If he invents for the dunya. If he wants to be rich, he wants to be rich through the dunya. He wants his name to be mentioned in the dunya. When he works hard to brag about or to pride himself. So such attitude and such goal does not deserve to be at the level of seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why the kafir is never described to have ulu al-himmah, or to be ali al-himmah, or to have very high determinations, the kind of determinations that we are talking about. And that is why you find in the Muslim world, and you find the Muslims are so amazed and so impressed by the West and by the kuffar, and this is the lack of aqeedah. And this is the lack of understanding. Because whatever they make, whatever they do, it's always for the dunya. Now that doesn't mean we should appreciate what they have achieved. That doesn't mean we should not appreciate what they have accomplished in the science and in other studies and in other sciences. But at the same time, we have always to understand that this is not the purpose they were created for. And another problem that the Muslims have is when they look at all these achievements and all these discoveries and all these inventions, they fall into another problem. And that they get impressed with the inventor. They get impressed with the discoverer. But they never get impressed with the entity that was discovered or the entity that was studied. And the one who created that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even from that we don't take the right lesson. So when we hear someone who discovered something in the body or a way something works in the body, we are impressed by him, so and so, and we cannot stop repeating his name. And when you read in the books, always you talk about, he invented so and so. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it before he invented it. So why all the credit goes to the inventor, not to the creator? That is a problem we need to address. That is why you find in Muslim world and the mentality and the new techniques that they're starting infiltrating into the academia is that even the word Allah or God is being removed and replaced with Mother Nature and replaced with other stuff. So all these things we need to pay attention to, and we need to make sure we understand and we are not falling into this, and we are not being parrots, just repeating what we hear. And that as well reflects on our kids. طبيعة, صماء, خرساء, عمياء. How can it produce all this? Mother Nature, who cannot talk, who cannot speak, who cannot hear, who doesn't see. How is it the one we're gonna relate every special thing and every creation in this world to it? And itself is created. So imagine someone, even at our level, someone who puts together a machine. Whatever the machine is, he puts together and he invents this machine, and then he puts it, he loses it. In the dirt, in the desert, he loses it. And then 100 years later, someone discovers it. Isn't it unjust and unfair to give all the credit to the one who found it and forget about the one who made it? And that is what's happening. That is what's happening. When someone discovers how the heart works, or how the muscles works, or how the cells form, and then he becomes the elite, and he becomes the pioneer, and he becomes the one who deserves all the credit. So we as Muslims do not or should not fall into this. When we hear something discovered and something amazing and something human cannot make, we should remember the qudra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the creation of Allah, and the perfection of Allah. And such way you can bring yourself closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and build your himma and your determination as a result. So very important, we need to understand where we are and our limits with the kuffar. And you hear sometimes, unfortunately, in the masajid, and on the manabir, and in the khutab, and in khutab al-Eid, using the kuffar to testify and to support their opinions. The imam or the person giving the khutbah will quote the kuffar, will quote Gandhi. Gandhi? You quote Gandhi on the minbar? Gandhi who plotted with the kuffar and with the British against the Muslims? Why you quote Gandhi? There are no Muslims who can show the dignity and the honor and the peaceful ways to solve problems in Islamic history and to bring Gandhi. Gandhi who said, I love my mother, the cow, more than my own mother. Because my mother, the cow, gives me milk my whole life. My mother, the real mother, only for 2 years, max. That is Gandhi. Gandhi who worship a cow. You use him as to testify and to support your opinion or your point. We don't fall into that. Our Islam is full of names, and our Islam is full of figures, and our Islam full of persons and people who, as they said, if you put them on the wound, it will heal. It's very important. And that the lack of knowing about those people is one of our major problems. And the lack of studying about them and their lives is one of the reasons that this ummah has reached where it is today. That's why you find whoever speaks about Islam, whatever level he is, a Muslim, whatever